go, Monday Dan.
Monday Dan.
And that thing was
right again.
Everything he said was right.
Fired.
And then he nailed it. Get him out of here.
I think he was right. And then at the end, I think the fans would have wanted the coach fired.
Right.
I don't think that the coach would have gotten fired. But let's live in just the criticism of the coach itself. Jeff, is it warranted?
Sunday was warranted. I mean, I think that it wasn't his best. Ooh. This team since the bye week has been a different football team and probably the best contender to take out Detroit Lions. And everybody's going to talk about can Sirianni. Last time I checked, Sirianni has taken this team to the Super Bowl. I think he has a strong chance if they continue to play in this realm to take them back to a Super Bowl. This is a good football team. They have a good offensive line. Their defense has played exceptionally well the last 4 weeks. They got, I think, 16 sacks. They've given up 4 touchdowns.
No one's questioning that. We're asking about the coach. We know they're good.
He doesn't get credit for any of that?
You tell me.
Absolutely he does. If you're going to take him for all the bad, you got to give him the good, man. They've run 2-to-1 ratio on early downs. They have one of the best backs in the game. Jalen Hurts has played significantly better since the bye. So if we're going to take shots at him, give him the credit for the good. And by the way, they did find a way to win. And if Barkley doesn't fumble it, I understand we're going to say, well, if Trevor doesn't do it. Well, if Barkley doesn't fumble it, it's not a question either way.
He was down anyway, but that's a different
both of those guys have issues.
Yeah.
It's a player. That's what happens with players. But to say he's not going to do it, I think is a bit ridiculous.
Watching those highlights, it's easy to say, like, what coach could screw this up? I mean, Devontae Smith is making ludicrous one-hand catches in the back of the end zone. Saquon Barkley, like, is Nick Sirianni running reverse hurdle drills, like, during the week? And we don't know, like, I mean, come on. Like, this is an immensely talented team.
Great.
And, yeah, look, we've had this conversation about coaching, right? You coach throughout the week. All these coaches get judged on their in-game decisions, and it's a smaller part of what they do. Right now, his in-game decisions are not good. Like, and he's on a bad roll with these. And I'm telling you, like, that's the kind of thing. When people look ahead, we know the Eagles are good. We think they're probably going to be in the playoffs.
I'm old enough to remember Andy Reid used to get the same type of criticism in game, bro. And Patrick Mahomes has taken him to 3.
Come back when Nick's won 3 Super Bowls.
Okay, well, he's gotten to 1 earlier than Andy. I mean, it's just, I get it. I think it's a bit ridiculous.
We have to grade them relative to their expectations, and I think that's the problem, is this team for the past 2 years, I think it's inarguable that they've underachieved based on the talent that they believe that they have. And we've tried to switch out coordinators, and that has seemed to be not the answer. And then in the course of this specific game, and I think this is fair to say of Nick Sirianni overall, is he is both too aggressive and too cautious. Like, pick a lane, Nick. Like, you can't be both and then be making the wrong decisions. Like, you're cautious when you're supposed to be aggressive and aggressive when you're supposed to be cautious. And that's the part, to me, I
didn't mind the first 2 points. You're trying to put a dagger in them. You know they're not going to come back. I didn't have an issue with that. It's when you start to chase because of it.
Right.
I understand, but I mean, give them some credit, man, if you're going to take all the shots.
Great that they're 6-2. Last year they were 10-1. You can understand people's apprehension.
Sure.
And these last 4 wins have been against Cleveland, the Giants, Cincinnati, and Jacksonville. I'm just saying it's going to get more interesting. Let's save some more. We need more time on this. Contender or contender, shall we? Jeffrey, I'll start with you. We'll name some teams here. The New York Jets, are they a playoff contender or pretender?
Pretender. Pretending.
Not very convincing either.
Yeah, no, I think the Jets have kind of run their course. They're exciting for you, and I know you love them. Devontae Adams, they had a big win. I think they flail, and unfortunately for you, don't make it.
All the energy came out of you when I asked you that question. Anyone else notice that? Graziano. Let's pick it back up. The Cincinnati Bengals.
That's a good one.
Playoff contender or pretender?
I wish an option was ask me again in 3 weeks.
No.
Because, I'm going to say contender. They got Baltimore this week on a Thursday night. Then they got the Chargers. Then they got the Steelers. All 3 teams that they are chasing for playoff spots. If they go 2-1 in that stretch, they're right in it. If they don't go 2-1 or 3-0, then they're cooked. But right now, with those games still looming, I'll say contender because I think they can win them.
All right, then let's go to the NFC. Domonique, are the Chicago Bears a playoff contender or pretender?
Definitely pretender at this point. Like, this is an easy one to call. It's unfortunate because you see some of the things that Caleb is capable of, and you see the magic, but the consistency is not there for anyone, frankly, on this offense, from the O-line to the receivers, especially the quarterback. It's pretty sad to see.
Is it uh-oh time in Chicago? I don't know a better way to frame this question. So I'm sort of torn on this, and people who know me and know my history know I have a lot of connections to Chicago. I've covered the Bears. My wife is from Chicago, whatever it is. The point is, so I watch them a little more closely than I might watch some of the other teams. I have to keep reminding myself, they were one play away from being 5-2 9 days ago. Like, when they say life comes at you fast, just show a picture of Matt Eberflus when that ball is in the air. Yeah. Because if they make that play, they're 5-2 and everything feels different. Instead, it feels like the air has come completely out of their balloon. The schedule looming is brutal. Jeff, what do we say about this Bears team right now?
I think you're exactly, I think you can have good things and nice things and realize it doesn't happen in a year for you. This team has made significant progress from last year to this year. Be happy with that if you're a Bears fan. You're not in the space. Yes.
Are they markedly better than they were towards the end of last year?
And their future is much better.
Because?
Because of Caleb Williams, because of how their defense has played much better this year. They will be a good football team in the future. They have a brutal schedule. It's disappointing the way they lost to the Commanders. Again, I think Arizona is underrated. I think people think this was going to be a walk with. This was a good football team they lost to. They didn't lose it in a great fashion. Caleb Williams looked a little lost. Their line didn't play well. But at the end of the day, if you're a Bears fan, you better be more encouraged than you were last year.
I think the Bears fans should be encouraged about their long-term future.
Right.
I don't know about the short-term future because right now it feels like the team may not be committed to the coach and the quarterback isn't where he needs to be just yet. And they're putting a lot on him. I'll say this about Caleb Williams. They're asking him to do a whole lot of advanced quarterback stuff that a lot of young quarterbacks can't do. So you see the glimpses of greatness, but you also see him not understanding who's hot on a particular protection. And you also see him being confused in certain situations when a blitz is coming. These are things because he seems to be responsible for setting the protection, which is great when you get to the point where you can do that regularly in doing full field reads, which is really hard to do for young quarterbacks. So if he masters all of this stuff, he will be one of the best quarterbacks in football. If his growth is stunted because they're asking him to do too much right now, then he'll be a flameout. But he has the ability. All the stuff that we said that we could see him doing, he does it in spurts. He's just not comfortable.
Yeah, look, if you assess them relative to their preseason expectations, versus what the expectations were while that ball was in the air, right? When they were about to be 5-2, then it's a little bit, you can go a little bit easier on them. But I think people did get excited by the way they were playing going into that Washington game, and obviously a chance to win it. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they do, right? Like Matt Eberflus, if you had said this time last year, he's out. Like there's no way they'll bring him back for this year, and he kind of earned his way back with the way they finished last season. So that's in the range of potential outcomes. The flip side is you own the Bears. You're looking at the rest of your division. You have 3 elite head coaches, 2 of which are like high-level offensive, play-calling geniuses, and the other one has one working for him that you could potentially hire. Right. It might be tempting to make a move like that around your young quarterback.
Yeah, I think the issue for them, to your point, is the division they're in. They're in a very good, and they're in a very offensive-driven division, right? The Detroit Lions are playing lights out. The Packers have Matt LaFleur, who's a great offensive coach. Eberflus has done a good job defensively. I think people the reason the Bears were winning games isn't because of Caleb Williams and their offense, their defense. So if you're like, hey, I'm blaming, well, give them credit as well because their defense is one of the better ones in the league. So they are much better than they were last year, Greeny. I know it doesn't feel good, but the reality is Eberflus has a better defense. To your point, if Williams can pick it up or they have to make a change there.